On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, the best non-conference slate of the year did not disappoint on Saturday. The number one ranked Tennessee Volunteers go to Champaign and win at the buzzer. Jordan Gainey is the hero. It was a sloppy, disgusting game. Tennessee was in foul trouble basically the entire game. All their starters were seemingly in foul trouble. Couldn't buy a bucket. Illinois couldn't either. But in the end, Tennessee grits it out, wins on a running layup, kind of tough shot, kind of a tough, made it look easy, but Jordan Gainey is the hero. Chaz Lanier had a great game. We're going to talk about that. Tennessee stays perfect, 10-0 for the first time in 25 years, and remains your number one team in the country. Meanwhile, UConn might actually for real be back, for real, like we're for real. But are we sure UConn's back? But they're for real back. They are for real back. It's just the only question I would have is, are we sure they're back? UConn beats Gonzaga in the Garden. Liam McNeely gets his breakout game. The freshman was unreal. 26 points. Outscored the rest of the UConn starters by himself. And UConn is playing better defense. The lineups are being shaken up a little bit. It is a different UConn team from Maui. Are they national title good yet? I don't think so yet, but you know, given what we saw in Maui, UConn is certainly playing better basketball, and I think Gonzaga might not be that good. I think Gonzaga. I'm not saying Gonzaga is the bigger story coming out of that game, but Gonzaga I have a lot of question marks about, and I feel like I'm back in a familiar position where I was with Gonzaga at this time last year, which is questioning. Yeah, they do play a really tough non-conference schedule, but like when you go back over it, like where are the exciting moments from the non-conference? I don't know. Gonzaga's getting a little goosey. I mean, Graham Ike and Nolan Hickman both have brutal games. They both played 12 minutes against UConn. The defense is uninspiring. The offense falls apart late. I'm talking about Gonzaga, obviously. So I want to talk about the Gonzaga part of this, but the UConn side, they have righted the ship a little bit. I don't want to get carried away and say they're back to being the number 2 team in the country like they were entering Maui, but there's certainly some reason for optimism in a way that there was not coming out of Maui. And this 3-game stretch they're on, UConn, Baylor, Texas, they're playing much better basketball, and that's got to excite you if you're a UConn fan. Meanwhile, Memphis gets a massive bounce-back win at Clemson, come from behind late to force overtime, and in the end, Colby Rogers, Tyrese Hunter, kind of take over that game. PJ Haggerty, who's leading the team in scoring, is kind of their All-American candidate right now. Had a little worse of a game, but I think Memphis is positioning themselves. I'm going to get carried away. I think Memphis might be the best offensive backcourt in the country. I think with those 3 guards are when they get rolling, they're unbelievable. And I think a game beating Clemson on the road, where your All-American caliber guard does not play particularly well. He doesn't have a bag. Haggerty wasn't that bad, but like he was, it was the Hunter and Colby Rogers show. It just speaks to how good all 3 of those are. That 3-headed monster. A lot of dare I say 2005 Illinois vibes. I probably shouldn't, because that's very disrespectful to 2005 Illinois. They were much better than these guys. But the Memphis backcourt is absolutely rolling. Get a huge bounce back win at Clemson. Speaking of incredible backcourts, do you know how to speak to your children about these Florida Gators? I mean, they are wrecking everybody. They are destroying everybody in their path. They the closest game they've had so far, I think, is a 13-point win against Florida State, and I'm pretty sure they were up by 13 at halftime and then just coasted in the second half. They are just wrecking everybody. Now, I will say they have not played. They just beat the shit out of Arizona State, which is why we bring it up. But they have not played like that marquee game that has grabbed the nation's attention yet. Which is not to say they haven't played anyone. I do think their schedule has been okay, but Florida's wrecking everybody. We gotta shine some light on that. They have a tough stretch coming up, and we'll know more about them. But Florida absolutely destroying everybody. Has a great backcourt as well. Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, Will Richard. That 3-headed monster is an absolute force. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the country, Cincinnati, UCLA, Kentucky win their big rivalry games. And I know I said I wouldn't talk about Ohio State, and I want to do my best to not talk about Ohio State, but Janai Broome has ruined my Christmas. I mean, Christmas is canceled. What the fuck was that, Tate?
He's the Grinch.
He ruined my Christmas. And I'm put in a tough spot because I said after Maryland dragged their balls over our face, I said I'm done with Ohio State. And I was like, I don't want to talk about the Buckeyes because we're just not nationally relevant. We're not. We're in a position now where we're no longer relevant, And yet, watching the Auburn game, I was like, this is such a beatdown that I actually think that if I wasn't affiliated with Ohio State, I would still talk about this game because this is so fucking embarrassing. But I told the people I wouldn't talk about it. I don't know. There are too many good games. We might talk about it at the end. There are too many good games to talk about before that. Absolutely loaded show. It was an awesome weekend of college basketball. We're going to do our best to touch on everything. Dayton gets a big win over Marquette. I mean, there's so many games. There's so many games. We're going to do our best to touch them all. Let's get into it. All right, I think UConn Gonzaga was probably the better – well, not the better game. It was the more intriguing – the AP poll says it was the more intriguing game because those two ranked teams. Gonzaga's top 10. They lose. Whatever. It made for maybe a more fun watch because the Garden was rocking, and we'll talk about that in a second. I want to start though with Tennessee beating Illinois. The number one team in the country goes on the road. A very, very good Illinois team. I stand by what I said about Illinois. Last time we talked about Illinois, I think Illinois has the highest ceiling in the Big Ten. I think it was the talent was not necessarily on display in this game, but this is what Tennessee does to teams. This is what Tennessee's done for years now. Turn games into rock fights. Make your offense that typically is, there's ball movement, there's player movement, there's a lot of skill on display. Tennessee finds a way to just throw a wrench in everything and make games look very, very gross. But I'm still very high on Illinois. I think like the late game situation, their sideline out of bounds was a disaster. The one bucket that I think it was Milicic got it just picked off the sideline out of bounds and goes down and dunks it. That was a huge bucket. Obviously, I mean they lose by 2 and you just gave them 2 free points. So Illinois got some things to clean up. They're young. But if you watch the game, you might, if that was your first time seeing Illinois, you might be like, I thought this team was going to be more talented. They were 4 for like 20 something from 3, 4 for 23 from 3. Not the greatest Illinois showing, but at the end of the day, you take the number one team to the wire. And you have a young team, and I think they are going to get better. So I still think Illinois could be something special, even though they're unranked. They're now 7-3, and they kind of let this one slip away. But I want to talk about the Tennessee part of this because trying to figure out how good this Tennessee team is something that I guess I've been doing for the first 10 games of the season, where they are ranked number 1 in the country. They're undefeated. Their defense looks great. The question with Tennessee this year and the question with Tennessee basically every year since 2019, since the Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield year when you didn't question at all if they had offensive firepower. The question is, are they going to get enough scoring? Is there we know that their defense can fuck shit up. We know that they can turn games into a rock fight like they did against Illinois. The question is, does it infect themselves? Do you get to situations with Tennessee where the offense falls apart because the tone of the game is such that it's like so gross that they themselves can't make shots? And where is the offense going to come from? And I have that question about Tennessee going into every single year. Last year, I got answers very quick with Dalton Knecht where I was like, oh, they're going to be fine. They got Dalton Knecht. They're going to be absolutely fine. And so far this year, Chaz Lanier, I think that's oversimplifying it to just say Chaz Lanier replaced Dalton Knecht. That's not true. Milicic has been huge for them. Jordan Gainey's gotten better. It's not just like a 1-for-1 replacement, but the question remains, like, can they get enough offense? And I do think between Lanier and Gainey, you do have like go-to guys that can get by. Like I basically my take-home point is this answered a lot of questions for me about Tennessee because my biggest issue with them is always like, where's the scoring going to come from when shit hits the fan? And yes, this was not a great game offensively for them. They shot 32% from the field. Everybody was in foul trouble, like I said. They were not in a great rhythm. But at the end of the day, Jordan Gainey had a great game scoring. Scores 23 points. Chaz Lanier fouls out, but he still scores 17. And I think that answers my concerns of like, it's exactly this scenario. When shit is bad, do you have a way to like dig offense out of the gutter? And I think they do. I think with those two guys, and I think Milicic was terrible in this game, but I still think he's a guy even that like on random nights is going to show up for them. So I'm very high on Tennessee, rightfully so. They're number 1 in the country in 10-0.
I think it's a damn shame that Illinois was not ranked in the AP poll because this doesn't look like the fanciest win of all time. I thought this was the clear win of the weekend.
Yeah.
Because Tennessee, this was a game that they had every single reason to lose. They're on the road, which is why I think it was so impressive. A lot of the wins this weekend, the big wins, were at home. That was a tough place to play. They've got Lanier in foul trouble, Ziegler's in foul trouble. Milicic couldn't throw it in the ocean. And he was wide open.
He was missing by miles. Yeah, feet, dude. It was crazy. He was not even close on some of his shots.
I thought they got a tough whistle.
Yeah.
And they weren't shooting well. All signs are pointing to them losing that game, and they still found a way to go beat a talented team. I was extremely impressed with Tennessee, and that's why they've officially passed the test that they would be a 1 seed, and they deserve it right now.
Yeah. I'm blown away by how good Chaz Lanier has been. To be honest with you, I didn't expect him to be. I mean, he wasn't even. This is just a ho-hum game for him. But he is. I trust. We've now seen it twice on the road, and I guess that's they've already played at Louisville. They just now play at Illinois. Those are two teams that, like you said, are unranked. But I think the rankings are. We need like a top 40 now. We need like a top. Like there are teams that aren't ranked that are still
Illinois.
Very
don't
good.
Tell me Illinois is not a top 25 team in this country.
Yeah, Illinois is very good. So but for Chaz Lanier to have, and again, I know he fouled out and only played 26 minutes, and ideally. He has like a better, but he had a good game. He was scoring the ball well. Did the same thing at Louisville, where I've now seen him go on the road with this iteration of Tennessee, and score the ball seemingly at will. To where I do think that I don't know. I'm scared because I love Dalton Connect so much, but Big T put this in my ear like 2 weeks into the season, where he's like, I think we might be more balanced offensively, and I was like, relax. Or he said, I think we might be better offensively than we were last year, and I was like, listen, man, Dalton Connect is special. Dalton Connect was that was a fun ride last year. Let's not get carried away about what Tennessee might be this year. But he might have been right, Tate. He might have been right. They do not have like Lanier and Gainey obviously aren't as good as Dalton Connect was, but they have more balance and they have more. Like I said, Milicic, if this is the first time you saw him play, you're like, this guy is dog shit. And listen, I don't think Tennessee should go into every game being like, we need Milicic to score 20 for us to win tonight. But there will be games where he'll be hitting shots and he's
not an
he'll look
3 guy.
Yeah, there are the fact that like he's their third best scorer, just pure scorer, but also the fact that you can like have that guy to turn to, that like he's a good panic button. I'll put it that way. When like if there's a situation where Lanier and Gainey can't get going and you have to turn to Milicic and just be like, please save us. He's not always going to be able to, but like he's got the skill set to theoretically do that, and that just speaks to like the different. I guess what I'm saying is like they have different ways to find where the offense is coming from, and that is that should be scary for the rest of the country, because Tennessee's defense is always going to be great, and it is great. And I mean, they're number one for a reason, but I think there's a lot of chatter from us, especially about Auburn's the best team in the country, and I don't know if that's necessarily. I think Auburn's highs have been sexier. I think Auburn has played a tougher schedule, but Tennessee is just very consistently beating teams, and this was a very, very good win at Illinois.
Last year, Dalton Connect fouls out with 4 minutes to go and a team's down 3 on the road. I don't feel confident in Tennessee coming back to win. I'll say this. I didn't feel confident when Chaz Lanier fouled out with 4 minutes to go, down 3 either. But they found a way to win, and that's it. It just goes to show what Big T was saying then. They have the depth. It doesn't have to be just Chaz Lanier. Yeah, Tennessee is like I keep saying, they're number one for a reason. Well, great win for Tennessee, and I keep saying like, wow, how did they find a way to win with all the things going wrong? Also, Illinois put on a masterclass on how to blow the game.
Yeah.
How could you ever see the play coming where they throw it back to the inbounder and he drives down the court and gets a little hip check? I was so frustrated with that. There's certain plays in basketball that you learn growing up. Like you learn the screener play in like 4th grade. You learn the inbounder goes to the corner on an inbounds play for a 3 in like 8th grade. This is the end of game play if you have a full court that you've ran since like JV basketball.
Yeah. That's where we're at with Illinois. Is that's why I keep saying like they're young and they kind of make boneheaded plays down the stretch, and they have things to iron out for sure. But that's why I keep using like the highest ceiling framing for them, because I don't think they're the best team in the Big Ten. I don't necessarily trust that they can string games together like great teams need to do. But I do think there will be moments between now and the end of the year where you talk yourself into Illinois going on a surprise Final Four run. I think like when they put it together, Yakuchonis. Yakuchonis. I learned how to say his name. I practiced that last time we talked about it. I was like, who's the fucking Lithuanian point guard they have? He's he gets a little careless with the ball, but he's so smooth with it. Will Riley off the bench is nasty. Avicic is good. I mean, those three, that three-headed monster they have of the foreign dudes are they're all very young, obviously, but they are supremely skilled. And yeah, I mean, the way they squandered the Northwestern game, the way they squandered the Tennessee game, it's not ideal, but it's also like, you know, this is a young team. You iron out these kinks. You look at the bigger picture. You say you had the number one team in the country on the ropes. You probably should have beat him. If Yakuchonis, he was the one that or Boswell, who shot the final free throws? I think it was Yakuchonis missed the like they basically were one free throw away from.
He missed
the first.
He went
and
to
then
the
made
line
the second,
with 2
right?
with 5 seconds left.
Yeah, down 1.
And he could have at least iced the game to need to go to overtime. Missed the first one.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, oh no, was it? Yeah, it was tied. It was tied, and he tied it up.
They were down 1. He missed the first. I think he made the second.
Yes.
And then Gainey hits the game winner. But I'm saying, like, just to, you know, they're a free throw. They're a free throw and a stop away, which is, you know, how basketball works. You got to make those fucking plays. But like, you have number one team right there, and it felt like a game they should have won. It's in the eye of the beholder as to what you see out of that. Or do you see a team that's choking this game away, or do you see a team that's young and it's like we can learn from this and move forward and take a lot of positives that you played like shit. They played like shit. Their offense was not good, and yeah, and you have number one on the ropes. That's a very positive sign. So anyway, a very impressive win from Tennessee that might fly under the radar because, like you said, to see number one need a buzzer beater to beat an unranked team, a lot of people might be like, damn, that's unimpressive. But you know, if you're paying attention to this Illinois team and how much talent they have, it was a gutsy win from Tennessee. Quick break to talk about DraftKings. It's the most wonderful time of year for getting in all the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's the season of giving, and we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. So many games every day, so many opportunities for you to place your first bet. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and place your bet. And here's a gift to all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. If your bet wins, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Titus. That's code Titus, Titus, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. When you bet just $5, happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Moving on to the UConn Gonzaga game. I think UConn's back. I don't think it's fair to put qualifiers on. I think UConn is very much a different team. I think the defense has gotten better. I think Aiden Mahaney's role, although after the Memphis game in Maui, he didn't start and he didn't play a ton of minutes the last two games, and they still lost those. But I do think like resetting the lineup, putting in Diarra and focusing more on defense, getting stops, because the UConn defense has gotten much better since Maui. And then on top of that, I just think that they like have just like I'm sure Hurley like just motherfucked him in practice, but it feels like they just have like a renewed sense of purpose and like they flushed the Maui situation down. Now, having said all that, like I do think I just said like they're back. Let's not put qualifiers on it, but back as in like they are not a disaster. They are not the sky is not falling. They finished last in Maui. They lost to a very bad Colorado team. Colorado's not good. Colorado is not going to make the tournament. Colorado's not very bad. I should choose my language better. Colorado is not like atrocious. Colorado is just not going to make the tournament, and UConn should not have lost to Colorado under any circumstances whatsoever.
Fair.
Right? So I think that they have improved since then to the point that like UConn is very much back in the Big East title race. UConn is a Final Four caliber team. I think to say UConn is back to like being in a position where we expect them to win the national championship, that might be a little insane. But they are definitely rolling right now.
Yeah, I think there's a case to be made that. So we talked about it about 2 weeks ago that they had a stretch of 3 games coming up. That they had, it was going to be make or break. They were coming off 3 straight losses in Maui. They're back in the United States. They had Baylor, Texas, Gonzaga.
Right.
You got to win one. You probably got to win 2. They just won all 3, and I think there's an argument to be made that all 3 of those teams are better than the 3 teams they lost to in Maui.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah.
So
they are.
I'm with you. There's nothing I've seen that says, "Hey, the three-peat is back on." But also, if you're going to rattle off those 3 straight wins, who says you can't do that come March?
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't think I think what I'm learning about Gonzaga though, and it's not just from this game, it's from the entire season really, is like I think Gonzaga, Graham Ike is a horrendous rim defender, and that's why he played 12 minutes in this game. Their defense is not good. They can't shoot, which we've talked about. And I look at Gonzaga's season to this point, and yes, they are playing in a lot of marquee games. They're playing Kentucky. They're playing UConn. They're playing they go to Atlantis. You know, they open the season with the game of the night on opening day in Baylor, and they beat the fuck out of them.
Yep.
How much is that Baylor game carrying their reputation right now? You know what I mean? Like, I still think That's
a great point.
They opened the season beating the absolute shit out of Baylor.
101 to like 60.
Yeah, blowout, and it was awesome. And I think that it counts just the same as all these other games should. But as you look up and you look back at where we're at with Gonzaga, they squander a game in Atlantis against West Virginia, just terrible late game execution. They beat the shit out of Indiana, which like sort of felt like a get right game, but Indiana's not good. I don't think Indiana's good at all. They blow the game against Kentucky. It's like the late game situations for Gonzaga are concerning, and I don't think it's hard to talk about Gonzaga because I think that's, I don't know, I'm all over the place because the framing for Gonzaga and UConn, they're just like held to a different standard. I think Gonzaga has not won a national championship, and UConn obviously has won 2 in a row, but I think the standard for both of them is national championship. For UConn, it's like, what's the point of saying we're back if it feels like we're just a Sweet 16 team? That's not back. Back is being...
You can't be the 2-time defending national champions and say we're back.
Yes.
To make the Sweet 16.
To make the Sweet... And right now, UConn feels like a Sweet 16 team to me. I don't think they're national title good yet, but so there's that framework. And then with Gonzaga, I did this last year where I was panicking about them, and I was like, you know, as conference play approached, I was like, Gonzaga might be on the bubble because like their non-conference wasn't as good as we thought. The West Coast Conference doesn't have BYU in it. You know, like they don't have BYU and St. Mary's every year in the West Coast Conference. You beat those 2 teams; those are like 2 good wins. And the West Coast Conference isn't as good as it used to be. And suddenly you're like, shit. If Gonzaga doesn't perform in the non-conference, they kind of got to run the table in the West Coast Conference to even make the tournament at this point. Like that's where we had arrived with Gonzaga. And I remember panicking about Gonzaga last year. Ultimately, they turn it around. They play good basketball, and they end up, you know, in the Sweet 16 as they always do. This year, it's not as pronounced. I don't think there is it's not as panicky, but there are similar vibes where it's like, yes, you did load up on the non-conference schedule. But now that we're looking up and Christmas is approaching, like you have 1 game against UCLA in Los Angeles coming up that suddenly to me feels very, very massive because I do think Gonzaga has a great roster. I do think that when Gonzaga is hitting shots, they can trick you into thinking that they are a very, very good team. And we've talked about the versatility with the big guys. Ike is not great defensively, but he can score the basketball. And Ben Gregg is good. Stromer can get hot, and he's making strides, I think, on the defensive end where Mark Few's trusting him a little bit more. But the standard for Gonzaga at this point should be a national championship because it's the one thing they haven't done. And I think that's what's interesting is like UConn has done it twice, and that's why their standard is national championship. Gonzaga hasn't. So like at this point in their program's run to say like, you know, I think this Gonzaga team is another Sweet 16 team. Yes, that's good, and I don't mean to – I mean, I'm a guy that's cheering for a program that hasn't been to the Sweet 16 in a decade. I would fucking love to go to the Sweet 16, but I think Gonzaga probably has a different standard where it's like – we're going into every year with the talent we have expecting to compete for national championships, and I am very concerned about this Gonzaga team actually being national championship good, whereas I thought coming into the year, given how they ended last season, beat the hell out of Kansas in the tournament, bring a lot of guys. They brought a ton of guys back. I I thought this team would be Final Four national championship good. And so far what we've seen in the non-conference is I see a team that doesn't lock in defensively, doesn't make winning plays down the stretch offensively, suddenly has like a lot of lineup questions. And ultimately, like their resume is not bad. And at this point last year, like I said, I was doing the whole like, are they on the bubble thing? They are not on the bubble. I think they have enough decent wins, and the losses they don't have any bad losses. West Virginia's not a bad loss, but their resume is not as they're ranked 8th in the country when they lose to UConn, and I don't know what they're going to be ranked today. But you look at the bigger picture and you're like, I don't know if Gonzaga really is that Final Four team I thought they would be.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, like you said, they have one notable non-conference game coming up, and then they're done after UCLA. They're going to roll into the tournament at 27-4, 26-5 probably after playing through the West Coast, and it's going to be you're going to have to remember back to these games as you're filling out your bracket, as you're filling out your how far are they going to go, and see if this is a national championship team. And I would say from the last 5 games we've seen, they don't really seem to be that top tier, top end type team. What about UConn, though? Has UConn shown you Big East wise? Are they back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And obviously Marquette lost. Are you now picking UConn to win the Big East?
I don't know. I still Marquette's bench bothers me. That was their bench really. Like, I love Marquette's starters. Their bench is very young, and I don't know who I trust on Marquette's bench, but I do love Cam Jones, and I love that starting 5. But I still think Marquette has to be the favorite. But UConn's back to me in this regard that they have. I mean, you remember that the start of the season where I couldn't make sense of how good UConn was going to be, what the expectation should be for this team. It was very confusing. And then Maui happens, and it feels like, okay, yeah, they're just going to suck. I think they're back to being confusing. I think they're back for me to being like, I don't know how good they can actually be. Because listen, the 3 wins, they are good wins. Baylor, Texas, and Gonzaga. I'm not saying they're just ho-hum, not important wins. Again, as I'm poking holes in Gonzaga, I'm looking at Texas is not good. Texas is not correct. Texas is not like Final Four good. Baylor might end up being good, but I still like Baylor. I've seen a lot of Baylor this year, and the idea of Baylor far outweighs what on the court. Like I do think that like if all the pieces fall into place for them, they could be something special, but they're not right now. I just don't like Gonzaga. Like I'm not Gonzaga didn't just rip off like wins against Auburn and Duke and Iowa State, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Or UConn. I mean, UConn did not just rip off wins against like the top echelon to where I'm like, all right, now they're national title. I'm putting them right back to like, yeah, they could probably make the Sweet 16. They're in that like good but not great.
Do you buy into it at all? And I think Hurley's kind of alluded to it. We were all over him for saying we're never going back to a 3-team or 3-game MT. We're not going to Maui. We're not doing this. There is going to be a narrative, especially when if they go win the Big East, where it's like, hey, the only time this team has looked bad is when they were on a vacation for 3 games.
Well, that's soft then. Then that's soft of them. That's still soft. Like that. This doesn't vindicate Hurley at all to me. No. That means you're soft. That means you're like you can't. You finished last place in the Maui Invitational, dude.
For sure.
If you're like as tough as you said, like you should be the guy in the program that like as the rest of the teams are at the beach and here to learn how to surf, you're here to win ball games. So like I don't. What's the argument otherwise? What do you mean?
I'm just saying that from watching that game, I may have done what he said, which is thrown the dirt on his body before he was dead yet. If
you're saying my program can't win, we can only win in Madison Square Garden when it's 95% UConn fans losing their fucking minds, and we can't go play in Maui and beat 3 bad teams, 3 unranked teams. They played 3 unranked teams. They're not bad. I'm sorry. Dayton's good, but 3. They played 3 unranked teams. It wasn't like for how good the Maui field was. They didn't lose to Auburn and Iowa State and North Carolina.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but Danny Hurley said it. He said we're not doing that anymore, and it seems like quite the story that they were able to come back from Maui. And then did you see his in the huddle? And I know he knows there was a camera right there. This is how champions respond.
But how is that how does that make him not soft? Like, he's soft. Imagine Ryan Day. I'll put it in terms you understand. Imagine Ryan Day comes away from the Michigan game and he's like, you know what? Moving forward, we're just not going to play Michigan anymore.
All right.
What the fuck does that mean?
I guess
like what? I
don't want to die on the hill.
Like, moving forward, we're just gonna simply not play. You know what? I realized what our problem was. It was we were playing a game and we couldn't win, so I'm gonna just not play that game anymore.
You're right. I don't want to die on this hill.
They've done a great job bouncing back, but like that doesn't mean that like. No one's putting a gun to his head saying you have to play in these MTEs. I understand all that, but I don't the public reaction to Danny Hurley going 0-3 in Maui and saying we're never going to do that again. Of course he's soft, and no amount of winning after that is going to undo. That makes it worse. That makes it even worse. It's like you can't
just be ready to be the only person with that take. And I'm not dying on the hill of like, hey, that wasn't soft. That was extremely soft. But if UConn is back and they just had 3 very good wins against teams that'll be in the tournament, and now I think they might go through the Big East, they're going to drop 1 or 2 here and there. The story is going to be that the only time that this team looked bad was when they were on vacation.
The only time this team looked bad is when they played neutral site games, which are the NCAA tournament games. That's what I don't know. This is the part of Danny Hurley that nobody.
Sent to the Maui region.
The part of Danny Hurley nobody talks about is that his first tournament wasn't 2 years ago. We have other data points on Danny Hurley. It wasn't just he didn't just go. He's not just been to 2 tournaments and run through them all.
All right,
but also good win. They beat Gonzaga. Liam McNeely was awesome. He was fucking awesome.
He's perfect for Danny.
He was really good. And that Madison Square Garden, when UConn's playing in Madison Square Garden, it does get rocking. And
neutral site game.
Yeah, with neutral site game. Gonzaga flying thousands of miles to. No, I don't have a problem with it though. It was I like the idea of UConn playing a game or 2 in Madison Square Garden before the Big East tournament. But that's what makes the Big East tournament so awesome is that UConn fans believe that they own Madison Square Garden. They believe that it's UConn's building. Villanova fans also believe that because they have run the Big East for a while up until up until Jay Wright steps aside, and then now UConn's kind of taken the mantle from them. St. John's literally plays their home games there, so they're like, this is our actual home arena. And yeah, you just get all those fan bases mixing together, and it creates absolute chaos. It's the best. What else I'm trying to think of what else from that game. I don't know. UConn we hit on. I said everything I needed to say about Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga, the win at San Diego State was a good win too. I don't mean to say that Gonzaga doesn't have any impressive wins or has only looked good on opening night. I just think they're trending the wrong direction. That's easy to say when you've lost 2 in a row, but I think it's like how they're – I mean, Hickman and Ike, who are 2 very, very pivotal pieces, 2 of their 3 best players probably. Mm-hmm. It's probably – like in terms of coming into the season, it's Nembhard, Ike, and Hickman. Those are their big 3 guys. And you have 2 guys playing UConn in Madison Square Garden, and they both played 12 minutes in this game because Mark Few's just like, I can't – you're a liability out there. I can't keep you out there. That is concerning moving forward, and I don't know. Big one against UCLA coming up. I'm not saying it's a must win, but it's like I've been doing that a lot in these I frame it not as like a must win as like your season's over, but it's like it's a big show me game. It's like it's there are only so many opportunities, and Gonzaga fans know this, and that program knows this. As long as you're in the WCC, and you're not going to be in the WCC for too much longer, but as long as you're in that conference, it's basically St. Mary's at this point is the one barometer you have. So non-conference becomes huge to feel out how good you are. Now, they have made 1,000 Sweet 16s in a row. I'm not worried about Gonzaga in the tournament in that regard, but like I said earlier, I think they're at a point as a program where they're setting their sights higher, and I haven't seen enough from this team to believe that they can get there. What other games? UCLA, Arizona. There's Memphis, Clemson. Memphis, big win. The 3-headed monster of Memphis, like I said at the top of the show, Colby Rogers and Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty. I think they are the best offensive backcourt in the country, and I don't know how much that's going to matter, except for, and this was a good example of it, because they're down late against Clemson, come storming back, force overtime, and then obviously win an OT. I do feel like Memphis is never really going to be out of a game, and that's interesting for me to say that, probably coming off of an Arkansas State game where Arkansas State just kind of kept them at arm's length the whole time on their home court. But I think that's what Memphis is ultimately going to be this year. I don't think they I don't think they're seriously a Final Four contender, but they are the team that no one's going to want to see in March, because when you have 3 guards that can score the basketball like that, they can fuck it up for a lot of teams. A lot of teams.
Yeah, that Arkansas State loss at home really makes no sense, because right now, if you're talking their only loss was to Auburn, with this backcourt and then going to beat Clemson. First of all, why was that game at 10 o'clock in the morning?
It was at 10 a.m.?
10 a.m. Eastern time.
Eastern?
What are we doing?
Was it really?
Wait, 10 a.m. Central.
Central. It was at 11. So it was 11 Eastern?
What are we doing on a non-college football Saturday?
I don't know. It was a loaded slate, and they wanted to get ahead of it.
Interesting. But, yeah, other than that, I mean, that was a great win for Memphis. And if their only loss was Auburn right now, we'd be talking pretty damn high. They've beaten UConn. They've beaten Michigan State. They've lost Auburn. They've beaten Clemson. They've beaten our boys at Missouri.
Yeah.
So.
Memphis is in a similar situation as Gonzaga, where their conference sucks, basically. Suddenly you look up in the American, and you're like, where are the good matchups? The American might be worse than the WCC in terms, because like at least Gonzaga has St. Mary's. I don't even know who the second best team in the American is. I truly, Florida Atlantic was Wichita State maybe. They just got smoked by DePaul. Shout out Holtman.
Shout out Holtman.
Big one over Wichita State.
I will give Penny credit though. Penny knows that, and he has scheduled a very nice non-conference slate.
Yeah, they got 3 big ones coming up at Virginia, who I know Virginia's not that great, but it's on the road against a program with some pride. And then you got the 2 Mississippi schools, Mississippi State and then Mississippi at home. Both of them at home. Wow. And then it's conference play. And I think they got to win 2 of 3, I would say, for me to like feel really good about Memphis. But I think they're going to make the tournament. I think that's fair to say from what we've seen so far. I think Memphis has the makings of a tournament team. The problem is, like I said, with the American Athletic Conference, like when you're a team like Memphis, it's so much better than everybody else. You can't really win in that conference. You can only lose. Like you're not. There aren't any opportunities to bolster the resume. There are only opportunities to add bad losses to the resume, really, which is concerning. But what we've seen from Memphis so far, I think they're going to safely be a tournament team. And then once they're in the tournament with those 3 guards, yeah, that's a team no one's going to want to play. I don't, like I said, I don't think they're going to win 6 in a row or 4 in a row or whatever else. But they can absolutely fuck it up for a lot of teams.
Kentucky
Louisville, Lamont Butler. What a game from him coming back, yeah. Does that I'm curious, because I was talking to you a little bit before we did the show. Where does that rank for you in the college basketball rivalries? How much did this on a day where there were 1,000 great games, and the Kentucky Louisville rivalry is billed by a lot of the Kentucky people as the best rivalry in the sport? Does it have juice to you?
It does. I think from just my growing up and being taught what the rivalries are, Duke North Carolina is 1, and then I would say Kentucky Louisville is 2 with what I've been taught. Yeah. And you're saying that just the results of the game is
I'm a hater of the rivalry just because it's Kentucky wins every year. And I hold on, let me check the score of this year's. Because I know Lamont Butler played well. I didn't actually see the ending. Oh yeah, Kentucky did win. Kentucky won again. Did you look at that? I'll be goddamn.
No, you're a hater.
I'll be goddamn.
Louisville, you don't deserve that, but I'll be goddamn. This.
They do deserve it because they lose every year. They lose every fucking year. Louisville loses this game every year.
And I got bad news for Louisville. Did you see the picture of Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey shaking hands before the game?
No.
Oh my God, I got to pull it up. I got bad news for Louisville moving forward. Mark Pope, here it is right here. Mark Pope alphaed him. Mark Pope looks like a 6'7" stallion. And then Pat Kelsey just.
Yeah.
You got to fire your coach. I'm short. Not. There were 2 times.
We're firing you for cause, and the cause is that you're short.
And you show him 2 clips. The first clip, and you saw it. 1 was the handshake. If you got to put, not just look up, if you got to tilt your head back to look up, you're not going to win the rivalry. And second of all, there was a little skirmish in front of the Louisville bench, and Mark Pope left in his beautiful blue suit, just filling it out nicely. Comes over to like break it up. Pat Kelsey was trying to be like, hey, I got this, like impressing Mark Pope. Mark Pope didn't give him the time of fucking day. Mark Pope alpha that dude 3 times if you count on the court.
Mark Pope rules.
Yeah, he's awesome.
What do you got? What do you got, Cody?
It doesn't really matter because he gets to go home to his hot wife. So
Pat Kelsey, yeah. He gets free sneakers, and he gets to go home to his hot wife. Louisville's banged up. Louisville's not at full strength like we thought they would be for this game. I was excited in the preseason for the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry to matter because both programs are doing a hard reset, but at the same time, both teams this year are good. We're thought to be good, and they are. They're both good teams. Obviously, Kentucky's better than Louisville, but I was excited for this game. And then, Louisville gets banged up. I think Kentucky's better than most people expected them to be.
Kirk Reese is out too. Let's use banged up both ways.
I'm sad that Kirk Reese is out. There was high potential for Kirk Reese and Pat Kelsey to fight each other in this game. There really was. I really thought that both those guys are just insane. Both of those guys have insane energy. That I thought that Kirk Reese flopping. The scenario I had in my head was Kirk Kriisa is guarding a ball handler who's a Louisville ball handler in the second half has the ball next to the Louisville bench, at the hash mark, and he's kind of standing next to the coach, and he's kind of backing him down, and then he goes to pivot and sticks an arm out to block Kirk Kriisa, and Kriisa just flops, and they call the offensive foul, and it's right next to Louisville's bench, and Kriisa gets up and he's clapping, and Pat Kelsey's losing his mind. And then the two of them kind of get into it. That's what I was hoping for the Mick Cronin, J.P. McCurry. You remember that when they got into it a little bit? I was hoping for that, and Kirk Kriisa just didn't play, and that killed all that. But no, I mean Louisville and Kentucky is it's I don't mean to say it's not a rivalry and it doesn't matter to those people. I'm just saying for to grab the national attention on a day when there were a ton of great games. I knew Kentucky was going to win this game, and the rivalry itself wasn't enough for me to lock in on every second of this game. I checked in from time to time, and I was like, yeah, all right, Kentucky's winning. Kentucky's going to win. And I want that rivalry to matter. I want that rivalry to be what the Kentucky people think it is. The people of the state of Kentucky, think it is. I would love for that to happen. And there for a little bit when Pitino and Calipari were there, and they won back-to-back national titles, Kentucky in 12 and Louisville in 13. I think that was when the push for that rivalry was happening, and they were like, is this rivalry better than Duke Carolina?
It's pretty one-sided. Yeah,
pretty one-sided.
Pretty one-sided.
6
of the last 7 looks like
Kentucky.
10 of the last
Kentucky
12.
leads 40-17.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's crazy. It's nuts. But Louisville's better. Louisville. I think, and they're banged up, and moving forward, I hope it becomes more competitive. But shout out Mark Pope is pushing all the right buttons, not only on how good the team actually is, but he's in winning over the fans. You saw the video he had of all the guys make
he's awesome.
Thing of how much the rivalry matters, and
he had the former players talk. Yep.
He is a guy who just simply gets it. That's the only way to describe his his
demeanor, his whatever.
His aura. That might be the word I'm looking for. He's won over the fans almost immediately, and he was a hire, as we keep saying that. When Kentucky went from John Calipari to Mark Pope, there were Kentucky fans who were like, "What? This is a huge step down." But now you're seeing you have a guy who's bought in and a guy who understands everything that makes the University of Kentucky basketball program tick. It's been pretty cool to watch.
The reason we were so hyped up about this game, we've talked about this game on the show months ago, was the hard resets, though. Louisville was supposed to get a little bit better, and Kentucky was supposed to drop off.
Yeah.
Kentucky's a earned top 5 team in the country right now. Is Kentucky a national championship contender?
I think so, yeah. I think as I keep saying about Kentucky, the one concern would be top-end talent, and you just keep going back to that of who on this team is an NBA player in 5 to 7 years that you see getting NBA minutes. And I'm not just doing that because that's what we're accustomed to seeing with Kentucky basketball. I'm doing that because that's what you're accustomed to seeing from national champions. When you watch teams win national championships, more often than not, almost always, there is a guy you're like, yeah, that guy's going to play at the next level, and that's why, not solely, but that's one of the big reasons that this team won a national championship. But I don't think it matters. I think that they definitely. The talk of I feel like college basketball national championship talk is very different from college football national championship talk, although college football this year has changed a little bit. But with college football, the framing always seems to be are you the best team in the country? And year after year, it's this team's pretty good, but I don't think they're better than Bama or Georgia or Clemson or Ohio State or whoever's the top dog. I don't think they're probably better than them. So for that reason, I don't think they're national championship good. Mm-hmm. Basketball, I think, works the opposite, where you don't have to be the best. You just have to be like above a certain threshold. And I do think Kentucky is above that threshold, if that makes sense. I don't think they're the best team in the country. I don't think by year's end they'll be a 1 seed. I don't think they're going to win the SEC. But I don't think you need to be that to be considered a national title contender, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. I'm glad you brought up the 1 seed, though. If you remember, we talked the other day about team conferences, best conferences ever, conferences that have had 3 or 4 1 seeds. I did a little research for you.
Yeah.
Twice conferences have had 3 number 1 seeds. Yeah. Can you name them? Both in the past 20 years.
It was probably – I'm not good at NCAA tournament stuff. I feel like I'm playing the dozen with Jeff D-Low.
Do you want them?
No, let me think on it.
Okay.
2011 Big East.
2009 Big East.
2009 Big East.
Mm-hmm. They had 11 tournament teams.
2009 Big East was Louisville was the number 1 overall seed. Yeah.
Made the Elite Eight.
Carolina was the one Big East team.
Mm-hmm.
Who were the other 2?
Pitt and Connecticut.
Oh, Pitt. That's right. Pitt lost to Butler?
Yep, Elite Eight, and then Connecticut Final Four. And
Pitt lost in the Elite Eight?
I believe so.
They didn't lose to Butler then. That was the year after, I think.
Louisville and Pitt, Elite Eight, Connecticut Final Four. They had 11 total teams make the tournament. That is what the SEC is competing with right now. The other one was just recent.
Was it Big Ten in 21?
No,
we got a lot of. Who was it?
2019 Duke, Virginia.
Oh yeah. 19, yeah, 19 ACC.
But
what Big Ten? What was the 21?
It was
Big
close. There was a time when
because the Big Ten in 21 was. I mean, we're still feeling the effects of that as a conference. We're still feeling the effects of that tournament. That was like the 1 year where it was like it has to happen.
Michigan was a 1 seed, Illinois. And then it was Baylor and Gonzaga were your 1 seed.
We were a 2.
Mm-hmm.
Did we get another 2, I think?
Iowa was a 2 with Garza.
Yeah. The SEC.
So can they have right now, correct me if I'm wrong, I would say that they would have 3 number 1 seeds if it started today. And I think, do you know all 16 of their teams are in the top 68 on KenPom?
Yeah.
All 16 teams.
Yeah, the depth is incredible.
Arkansas, who's a tournament team, is 40th. They're the 12th ranked team in the conference right now on KenPom.
Florida is the just forgotten about team. Florida feels right now like Indiana football, where they quote unquote haven't played anybody. Like their best win so far was probably the game we just saw, Arizona
Saturday,
State. Yeah, it was probably just the Arizona State game. They haven't played a total dog shit schedule. They've beaten Florida State, Wake Forest, Wichita, Virginia, Arizona State. These are all like obviously power programs and like brands that should be familiar to college basketball fans, but I think each one of those teams isn't really that good per se. But they are beating the shit out of them, and it's an interesting like the difference obviously with the football and the basketball is Indiana football like is a smaller schedule and there's only so many opportunities. So then you argue more about like how good the Hoosiers actually were this year. At Florida, we're going to find out pretty quickly. They have Carolina on Tuesday. They open SEC play at Kentucky and then Tennessee at home and then at Arkansas. So it's like, right out of the gate, we're going to find out. So it's not as much of a concern. But as we sit here right now, Florida is one of the more interesting teams in the country because all the talk about the SEC is about the Auburns and the Kentuckys and the Tennessee, obviously, the number 1 team in the country, and your Bamas who, fell off but are still very, very good, and they're playing their way back into that top tier. And Florida's just kind of lurking in the background, has yet to really play a game that, commands the national attention, has yet to play a game when it's like there are other games on. You should be watching the Florida game if that, that's how that makes them kind of under the radar is that they haven't there's so much college basketball on. Florida hasn't had that marquee matchup that's like we need to be watching this game. And yet at the same time, when you do watch them, they're destroying everybody. And they look like they're playing Division II teams out there.
You say they haven't had a game worth watching yet, and you're right, because every game has been 20 points at the half, too. Like you said their best win is Arizona State on Saturday. Yeah, by 30 points. What I think is interesting is they are an SEC team, and they are what the SEC football teams hate, which is You can look at their resume right now, take Florida off their name, and you can say, yeah, they've beaten everyone, but they haven't beaten anyone.
They haven't played anybody, yeah. But they've done exactly what you would expect a great team to do against a schedule like this so far. And again, it's like none of this matters because they're not going to get to the end of the season having anybody. They're going to play in the hardest conference in the country. Would
a result against North Carolina matter to you? Big win against North Carolina on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean they that's a game they don't have to win, but like I expect them to win. Yeah, I don't think North Carolina they're playing in Charlotte, so it's like a semi home game for it's a quasi home game for Carolina, but yeah, I expect Florida to win. Florida's the better team. But yeah, that will tell us a lot. Mm-hmm. That will tell us a lot. I don't think Carolina's in that just that mix of teams. It's like it's not fair to say they're a bad team. That would be overstating it, but they're also not good. Is mediocre the word I'm looking for? Is mid the word I'm looking for? I think given the standard of North Carolina, you expect them to be better. So like you might rush to exaggeration and just say like this team sucks ass. That's not true. But also at the same time, like no, I don't think like if Florida beats Carolina by 5, I'm gonna walk away from that game and be like, holy shit, Florida's. That's not gonna change everything for me. You know what I mean? I'm more interested in when SEC play starts and you're playing Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Texas. The first 5 games. They have.
Wow. Yeah, we'll find out that first week of conference play. They have Kentucky, Tennessee. We'll find out by the end of the week if they're
by mid-January. I mean, Florida's either going to be the number 1 team in the country or unranked.
And that's all before they even play Auburn. Jesus.
Yeah.
God, the SEC is good. All right, let's talk cars. You want to find a trustworthy dealer, dealership reviews from shoppers like you? Cars.com offers the latest research, shopping tools, and dealership reviews to help every shopper find the perfect car. Shop by monthly payment or filter by features to find the cars that fit your budget and needs. Listen, everyone knows one of the biggest pain in the asses in the entire world is buying a new car. I moved to Chicago. I didn't bring a car. I have found out through this Chicago winter that I need one. So what do? I go to Cars.com. Customer service excellent, product even better. Visit Cars.com and start exploring your next possibility today.
Can we talk about Dayton beating Marquette? Marquette had 4 bench points in this game. Marquette was up double digits. The most dangerous spot to be in college basketball might be a double-digit lead in UD Arena against the Dayton Flyers. That is a trap you should not fall into. Dayton loves playing from behind. Those fans are fucking bonker. Have you ever been to a game there?
I have been to high school basketball games there. I have not been to a college basketball game there.
Highly recommend it.
First of all, the arena is awesome.
The arena is like a perfect college basketball arena. The fans
fans came out to watch. That's where the state championships are played now in Ohio because
oh really?
It used to be at the Shot and now it's played in Dayton because Dayton fans are the type of people that will just go watch basketball.
Yeah, I mean that's why the first 4 is there every year.
Awesome.
That's why I mean if you're anyone who's confused as to why the opening stages of the NCAA tournament are in Dayton, Ohio, of all places.
Yeah,
just go, and then you'll walk away and you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes total sense why they do it there. Because like you said, they'll just watch any basketball and they're fucking crazy. The only game they're crazy about their Flyers. I was gonna say, the only game that I went to, the only Dayton game I went to was Obi Toppin's last game when he went between the legs. He did a between the legs dunk. I've never heard an arena so loud. It was fucking crazy. But yeah, that place is awesome, and watching them come back and not just beat Marquette, but then beat Marquette going away, it felt like a game where it's like if you would have put 20 more minutes on the clock, Dayton would have won by 30. They were down to they just had all the momentum running through the finish line. Yep. It turned, and then they just put the pedal to the metal and kept it going all the way to the finish line. But watching them beat Marquette rather easily in the end, even though I know they were down double digits in the second half, but they ended up winning by 8. Watching them beat UConn and Maui, how is Dayton not in the Big East? How do we make this happen? How do we make the Dayton Flyers a Big East team? Because I didn't mean for this to be the theme of the show today, but talking about Gonzaga's conference and talking about which Gonzaga is fixing and they're going to go to the Pac-12, but talking about Memphis' situation. Now I'm looking at a Dayton team, and the A-10 is a little bit better, but the A-10 has as a whole fallen off from what it was like when I was growing up. Like the A-10 was like the premier mid-major conference, and and the A-10 like matter. Like the A-10 was a great litmus test for like whether you're a college basketball fan or whether you were casual. Like if you were actually paying attention to what was going on in the A-10, you love college basketball because you couldn't take the entire picture of college basketball without bringing in the A-10.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think it's that anymore, and I think you could be a very big college basketball fan and just neglect the A-10. I'm just being frank. Like I don't think you really need to follow A-10 basketball in 2025 to be clued in on what the greater landscape of college basketball is. And all that is to say, get Dayton out of the A-10. Get them to the Big East. They're good enough. The fan base is there. They're a private Catholic school. Mm-hmm. They check every single box except for the fact that like Xavier's already in the Big East and they're kind of down the road, which I actually think makes it better. That's what the Big East was fucking built on, was having all these schools right next to each other, and they all knew each other really well, and they're fighting for the same recruits. And I think that's a positive. I don't think that's a negative for if the Big East was to take Dayton.
Yeah, I think and just the amount of big games that would then be able to be played in Dayton would be incredible. I don't know how they're going to convince other teams to come to Dayton anymore.
Yeah.
Right now. They might have just screwed themselves on Saturday by welcoming a top.
I know, but if you're a Big East team, it's not as bad. But also, like, I think they screwed themselves, but also Marquette playing there kind of underscores that losing at Dayton isn't a bad loss. And I think that should be the takeaway. I think other teams should be like, yeah, we're probably going to be in for a tough night playing there in the non-conference. But honestly, I don't think if you're coming away from that game saying that's a bad loss for Marquette, you're just not paying attention to how good Dayton is and how crazy that environment is. But yeah, Dayton is probably going to be ranked.
I would think so. Their only losses are in North Carolina and Iowa State, and they've got wins over UConn and Marquette. How could they not be?
Yeah, no, they've beaten the two best teams in the Big East. An A-10 team is beating the two best teams in the Big East. That seems something to think about. That seems rather noteworthy. UCLA, Arizona, my one note on that, Arizona scored the fewest points in the Tommy Lloyd era. UCLA, I guess I should start with the winner.
Yeah,
I have a way of pointing out the bad, which, you know, probably says something about me that I wish I focused on the negative. I should probably focus on the positive more. UCLA is the favorite to win the Big Ten. Am I?
Yep, you are correct.
That correct? Their defense is outrageous. They are so good defensively. It is a Mick Cronin team through and through that focuses heavily on playing defense. That has great guard play, and I think they are new to the conference, obviously. So I still think, even though we've had the football season to kind of remind ourselves of all these West Coast teams in the Big Ten, I still think the basketball part of it is yet to really
not
sink
sunk in at all.
Yeah. And UCLA has played 2 conference games so far. They're 2-0 in the Big Ten. Those 2 wins, Washington and Oregon. So even that was like still not, like we're still waiting for UCLA to really get into the fold. But yeah, I for a conference that feels wide open, what if UCLA just is the best team? What if UCLA, a lot of Mick Cronin has a lot of similar vibes to him as I have with Tennessee, where it's like you trust that the defense will be there, and through the year, this is going all the way back to Cincinnati teams. Like through the years, you trust that the defense will be there. The question is always, do you have the playmakers offensively? I don't think that this UCLA team has the playmakers that the height of the Mick Cronin era, the Hawkes years and the Johnny Juzangs and the Tiger Camp, like that David Singleton, who was like one of my favorite players in college. David Singleton's a guy that I will love forever, and he's one of my favorite he's going to be one of my favorite obscure college basketball guys like in 20 years. But anyway, I don't think they have that much talent, but the talent is there, and it checks that box. If it's a yes or no question, I think the answer is yes, and UCLA, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they're the favorite for a reason, but it also wouldn't surprise me if we look back on this season and we're like, yeah, why did we think the Big Ten was wide open? UCLA was just right there the whole time.
Yeah, well, the conference traditionalists are not going to be happy if UCLA wins this conference, because
and Oregon wins
Oregon came in year 1 and knocked off Ohio State and Penn State, the cream of the crop, and then UCLA, if they come in and beat the Indianas and the Illinois and the Purdues and win the Big Ten title.
Yeah,
I think we got to change our name to the Pac-12.
Not to do the no kidding. Quick break to talk about Jack Black. Jack Black just came out with 4 new scents of their number 1 deodorant, Pit Boss. Their deodorant is the best at controlling odor and wetness no matter what I'm doing, and now I can have my cleanser, lotion, and antiperspirant, all of my favorite scent, which is a total game changer. Jack Black's original Pit Boss deodorant is a top seller, and now you can get the same reliable odor and wetness protection in 4 new masculine scents. Big Sur offers a refreshing aroma that mixes marine, accord, and amber. Blue Midnight features adventurous notes of black pepper and lavender. Jack Zen presents a grounding blend of bamboo and violet. Jack Black was founded over 20 years ago with the goal of offering men's body care products that were just as effective as women's body care products. Their commitment to superior skincare has made Jack Black, according to Circana, the number 1 men's body care brand by total dollar sales, and according to me, the number 1 men's body care brand by just stuff I use. It's the only deodorant I will wear. In fact, I'm putting out a challenge. If you see me on the street and you sniff my pits and I'm not wearing Jack Black, I will give you a prize of some sort. It's not going to happen, so it doesn't matter. It's the only deodorant I wear, and it's the best. It smells so good, and it helps me not sweat through the day. It's incredible. If you want simple, effective products that do what they say they're going to do, you need Jack Black. Head to getjackblack.com/Titus and use code Titus for 10% off your order plus free shipping. Once again, that's getjackblack.com/Titus, Titus, for 10% off your order plus free shipping. And make sure to use promo code Titus so they know I sent you. Jack Black. I'm sure someone pointed this out that you have 2 Pac-12 schools win conference shit. The Arizona State wins the Big 12 and Oregon wins the Big 10. Mm-hmm. Is the Pac-12 the best conference in football? They
should have added the Ohio States and Michigans.
Yeah. We should have gone to Ohio State should have joined the Pac-12.
Let's talk Arizona.
What was I going to say? Arizona. Arizona scored 54 points. It is the fewest number of points that Arizona basketball has scored in the Tommy Lloyd era. And you have to go all the way back. The previous record that they just broke, you have to go all the way back to the Duke game earlier.
I was gonna say
3 weeks ago. That was the fewest points ever scored in the Tommy Lloyd era, and now they broke that record with 54 points. This is an Arizona team again that loves to push tempo, and UCLA slows it down. Their defense is great. I understand all that. Through the years, as great as Arizona is at scoring the ball and getting up and down, every time they do play UCLA, it does seem like that's when the scores come down and it becomes this happens in rivalry games, and it happens certainly when you're playing Mick Cronin's teams. But I think I've seen enough from Arizona to be officially concerned, and I think they are squarely on my bubble. I think they are on the NCAA tournament bubble. This is the worst Arizona 3-point shooting team in the history of the school. They're shooting 30% from the 3-point line. The defense just isn't good enough. It's just not a good defensive team, and Arizona's whole thing is scoring the basketball, pushing tempo, playing free and loose, and just stepping into shots confidently. And you see none of that when you watch Arizona.
You can't be a push the tempo, run and gun, Caleb Love type team and be scoring 54 points, 55 points in your 2 biggest games of the season.
No.
And
they don't have the capability to win those games either. That's the problem with Arizona is they don't have there are teams that like to score a lot that can handle a plan B or C or D, and they get into a rock fight and they just gut out a win. I don't trust Arizona at all to do that. I don't trust that. If they're not scoring 90,
right,
they don't really have much of a shot to me.
It's the worst type of notable good basketball team you can be. They've played 4 games outside the top 100. They've scored 102, 104, 102, and 93. So what they're saying is that they flex their muscles and they're a run and gun type team when they play bad teams.
Yeah.
But as soon as they play good teams, they're scoring 55, they're scoring 70, they're scoring 70,
yeah.
54. And that's just that just tells me that you guys are going to beat up on the Sisters of Port, and then when you guys play good teams, you can't beat them. Or you can't control how the game is going to be played.
The fewest number of points they've scored in a win this year was opening night. They scored 93. And that's what I'm saying.
Against Canisius.
And Canisius, who's not good, obviously, but you can't. Can Arizona win a game scoring 60 points? I don't think they can. So it's one, you're not scoring at the level that you're accustomed to, that the culture of your program has been built on. But 2, even when you're put in that situation, you're not finding ways to win these games. I don't see a path out of this for Arizona. I think putting them on the bubble is kind.
That's what
I don't even think they're on the bubble. They might just be completely off the bubble. Obviously they're not even 500. So if the tournament started today, they wouldn't even be considered to be in. But I'm talking as you're forecasting the rest of the season. I think if they can play their way onto the bubble, maybe that would be impressive.
Yeah, when you said that, so I agree that they have underwhelmed this far, and they're 4-5, and they whatever. What have you seen going forward that says, hey, once Big 12 play starts, and once we start playing the Baylors and the Iowa States and Houstons and whoever it may be, that they're going to win these games? I think they're out.
Houston's going to fucking ruin them.
Houston.
If this Arizona team shows up to Houston, do they play at Houston? Do they have to go to Houston?
I think they only play Houston once, and it's at home.
Oh, good for them, dude. Because if this Arizona team we've seen so far goes to Houston, I mean, they might lose by 40.
Well, yeah. So when Kansas, Iowa State, Baylor, Houston, BYU, they're going to lose these games. They're not going to make the tournament.
Yeah, they're not. They do not seem like an NCAA tournament team, but at the same time, UCLA. This UCLA team's not special. They're not. I don't think they're. Like they're. I don't say that to be mean. I just I don't think they're like a top end UCLA. I don't. Obviously, UCLA has the most storied history in the sport. Like they're not on that level, but I don't even think they're one of the better Mick Cronin teams. Mm-hmm. But
might be good enough to win the conference.
They're good enough. They're good enough to win the conference for sure. They're good enough to win the Big Ten, and the Big Ten, as bad as it is in terms of top end talent, it is a good conference, and a deep conference, and there will be a lot of tournament teams from the Big Ten. So I do think if you win the Big Ten, that's not nothing this year, even though we don't have the top end teams at the SEC. The SEC has them all. The SEC has 5 of the top. Duke is definitely in the top, whatever. Iowa State is definitely in the top, whatever.
Are you putting Houston up there? Or are you putting them below already 4 SEC teams? You could put 4 SEC teams.
I think you could argue four SEC teams above Houston, yeah. I think you could. I think Duke and Iowa State are the only 2 right now that I would say definitively belong in the mix with the top echelon of teams. Other than that, it's all SEC teams. It's how many? It's Auburn and Tennessee and Florida. God damn, dude! I've never seen anything like this. I think I just keep going back to that. I've never seen a gap between the top conference and the second best conference as wide as it is this year. That's gonna be awesome.
They went 13-1 on Saturday.
Well, one of the wins, Texas A&M beating Purdue. I mean, that's another win. That's like I try not to do the conference stuff. Like I try not to care that much, but when it's like so in your face like this, Purdue is a team that UCLA is the favorite. Purdue is the standard for the Big Ten. The Purdue is our UConn, so to speak. Like Purdue is, like the measuring stick for the rest of the conference right now. And Texas A&M is not going to win the SEC. Texas A&M is a mid SEC team, which I say. Not as a slight to Texas A&M, it's a tip of the cap to the SEC at how good they are, and they handled Purdue and Indy.
They went. I was going to say the barometer being Purdue being the standard of the conference. Who I still think, if I had to choose today, I'm still taking Purdue to win the conference, just because I haven't seen enough from anyone else to think that they're going to overtake the standard. Basically, hosting Texas A&M in Indy. Texas A&M is what, a sixth best team in the SEC.
Yeah,
and they came in, they bullied them.
That's crazy. Quick break to talk about DraftKings. It's the most wonderful time of year for getting in all the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's the season of giving, and we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. So many games every day, so many opportunities for you to place your first bet. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and place your bet. And here's a gift to all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. If your bet wins, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Titus. That's code Titus, Titus, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. When you bet just $5, happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Speaking of bullied, let's just talk about it. Mm-hmm. We suck. Auburn could have scored. This is the thing that like just made me really sad. Like, well, first of all, we lost by 40. That made me sad. But what really drove the point home is Auburn could have taken a shot clock violation on every possession in the final 16 minutes, and they would have won the game. If the last 16 minutes of the game, Auburn came down the court, held onto the ball for 29 seconds, and then drop-kicked it into the stands, they would have won the game. For the last 16 minutes, Tate. You understand? That is, yeah, man. We this is the second time Ohio State has been down by 40. That's concerning, to say the least. We're not a perfect basketball team. But I'm saying this like. I just keep going back to that opening win against Texas, and I was so excited. I was like, finally, I'm having fun watching Ohio State basketball again. I knew we weren't perfect. I knew we hit a ton of threes in that game, and I was like, we're not going to shoot like 50% from the 3-point line every game and hit 13 threes or whatever it is we hit in that first game. But at the same time, I thought we would have a little bit of pride. I thought we'd have a little bit of heart. I thought like. God damn! Like I didn't expect us to beat Auburn, to be honest with you, going into this game. But like, holy shit, to be down as much as we were, and just to keep digging a hole over and over and over. I don't know, man. I'm broken. I'm just completely broken.
I was gonna propose a new rule for our tarred and feathered list. If your team goes viral twice for being down 40 at the half, you can't win a national title. I'm not even saying. We were never a great team. Neither of us ever thought we were a great team. I'm not even saying either of us ever said we were a good team.
I thought we'd be a good team, but yeah. But go on.
My point is, even average teams don't go down 50-17 at the half. Don't go down 50-21 at the half. Not because of talent. Like the thing is, Ohio State is still Ohio State. We do not suck. We do not have terrible players. We don't have fight. We don't have pride. If you go down 50-17 at the half, it's not because Maryland has better players than you at every position. It's because when you get punched in the mouth, you turtle up, you become soft, and you just let it happen. Janai Broome could have gone for 40 and 30 if they wanted him to.
If that game, if that game would have had infinite amount of time on it, and you just like keep playing, I don't think there's any point where our guys would have given a fuck. I don't think there was, they could have, if they would have just added 20 more minutes to the clock, we might have lost by 100. We might have, like, there was no pride on the horizon. There was no like, our guys were just like, get me the fuck out of here as soon as possible. And yeah, it's disheartening to say the least, and it's the part of me that makes me feel like I'm 1,000 years old because I watch that shit and I just go back to like what would have happened if this was like the era when I was there. Mm-hmm. Not that I had anything to do with it, but I'm just like thinking of like the teams that I was on. Like how would we have handled this if we were getting our ass kicked? Jamar Butler would have fought somebody. Jamar Butler would have just like thrown punches, and would that have fixed it? No, but at least. At least there would have been something. Probably would have made the problem worse, to be honest. Then we would have been coming out of a 40-point loss without one of our better players for the next 3 to 5 games. But I don't know. The people watching, the Buckeye fans watching at home would have been like, I love to see the fight. I love to see that like someone gives a fuck. I thought, you said we didn't think we were going to be great. I didn't think we were going to be a great team. At no point, even after the Texas win, was I like, oh my God, Final Four, is this happening? Mm-hmm. I did think we were going to make the tournament. I thought that was definitely going to happen. And I think given the talent we have, that is a fair expectation. I also thought we were going to have the best backcourt in the Big Ten. And I said that very early on. And it wasn't necessarily that I think that this backcourt is like super special. I think it's more to like the question marks around the Big Ten as to some of the guard play. I know Penn State has Ace Baldwin and Purdue has Braden Smith, and there are a lot of really good players. Dylan Andrews at UCLA. There are good players, but I thought the depth that we had of Bruce and Michi and Mobley off the bench and Micah Parrott, like I just thought like as a unit across the board, like these guys are going to be very, very good. And yeah, I mean it's fair to not only be disappointed that we lost by 40, but to be just like disappointed that how it happened. That it wasn't like, I don't know if there is a scenario where losing by 40 is excusable, but it wasn't like Auburn was playing. Auburn's great, but like Auburn wasn't playing otherworldly. Auburn was playing as good as they basically played all season, and we just fucking gave up for the second time now. This is obviously a concern.
We look like we are everything that is wrong with the transfer portal. You always talked about, what happens if you miss on this? You got to hit on this recruit. You got to hit on this transfer. We look like a collection of players that we missed on, which I'm looking back hindsight. It's like, hey, there's a reason that they were all transferring from their schools. They weren't getting playing time.
Yeah.
We look like we missed on our transfers, but that's why we're losing. The reason we're getting beat by 40 is because they have no pride. They have no, like, you talk about your team and you would have fought if you guys were getting beat like this. That's because you guys were all Buckeyes and you guys all had pride and you guys all cared about the program. They all came here because we gave them the highest NIL deal.
Yeah.
That's why they're here.
Yeah.
And they stink. Michi, all right, this is my last thing because I don't want to make it all Ohio State. Who is Michi Johnson at South Carolina?
Where's that guy?
This guy, you're talking about our best backcourt, Bruce in his homecoming game and Michi combined for 63 minutes and 8 points.
It's crazy.
You and I could have had 8 points.
I love Bruce Thornton as a human being. I think he's got all the talent in the world. He disappears so easily. He is very quick to just disappear. And I think I keep falling into the trap of believing that he's not that guy anymore. Like I keep falling into the trap of like, if we could just get a consistent Bruce, if we could just, I don't need him to score 20 points a game. I just need him to be the calming influence on this team. I need him to be, if Bruce Thornton gives me 13 and like 6 assists every night, plays great defense, but on top of all that brings like the intangibles of like, the during a free throw, he just pulls the team together and he's like, relax guys, we're all right, relax, just everybody chill out. I got this. Get the ball in my hands. Maryland's pressing in the first half. We know they're going to press. Just give me the ball. I'll bring it up. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everybody chill out. I thought he'd bring that. Does not. He just he's like, oh fuck, it's one of those nights. I guess I'll go stand over here and watch as we get our brains beat in. The most humiliating loss I remember was that we had, and I don't remember them all. Like maybe there was a worse one, but when I was at Ohio State, we lost to Florida at Florida. The year we lost them in the national championship, we played at Florida like right before Christmas. When they were the defending national champions and had, 3 NBA players, maybe more than that. I don't know. I don't remember who was on their bench, but they were fucking loaded. And we lost by, I think, like 25, 26. And that had the feeling of like spiraling. And as it's happening, we know we're going to lose. And we were throwing in the towel a little bit. And Greg had, he'd been hurt at the start of the season, and now we had him back. It wasn't his first game back, but we were kind of working through that a little bit, and we're a young team. And anyway, I say all that to say that we lost by 26, and that felt like that was like a never again moment. That was like just a horrendous taste in the mouth type, gut check moment for us. This Ohio State team had that at Maryland, and then followed it up. How long ago was that? Like 2 weeks? Yeah. 2 weeks later, we followed it up with this performance against Auburn. I don't know, man.
It was December 4th, yep. And listen, we don't need to do – we got Kentucky coming up in less than a week. We got Kentucky the day of the college football playoff. That's my final thing on Ohio State. Saturday's a huge fucking day for this university.
Oh, yeah, the football game,
We go Ohio State, Kentucky basketball right into Ohio State, Tennessee. Big Ten SEC.
Yeah. I mean, the football
Talk all right.
No, the football thing, like, is I said this to, like, when we lost to I'm in a tough spot because I don't want to come across like I don't care about the football program. I do. I care. Like, I fucking sucked. We lost to Michigan. I was sad about it. I very much care. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to fix my basketball program before I get
But I thought basketball,
I thought basketball
was going to be something we look to.
Right.
Like, we lost to Michigan. It's like, okay. And then basketball, all of Buckeye Nation needs you, and you get beat by 40 in the first.
I'm telling you right now, if we lose by 40 to Kentucky in basketball and we lose to Tennessee in the playoff game, I care way more about I'm going to come away from Saturday just being like, we got to fix this basket. But that's just, I understand, I didn't grow up in Ohio, and I'm obviously more of a basketball guy, but I got to fix my basketball program. I don't know how to do this.
It needs fixed.
I don't know how. I don't have enough money to fix it. How do I just? Did you just throw money?
But
it's what is it?
Because
we have money. What is it, Tate? We let Zed Key go to Dayton and Felix Okpara go to Tennessee.
Hey, Okpara would look pretty good right now because the one person who does have fight on this team, I think Devin Royal plays his ass off. I think he has pride to be there. I think he cares. I think he rebounds. He's also our post presence at 6'6".
6'6", dude. We have no big guys. We bring in Aaron Bradshaw. We bring in Bradshaw, lose Okpara, lose Zed Key, which Zed Key was, I know Dayton fans, I love Zed Key. The last time we talked about Zed Key, I was like, I do miss him. I wish he was still a Buckeye. Zed Key, he's not like a pivotal piece, and He's more of a meme than he is a great basketball player. He's just good for like high energy plays and then raises the roof and finger guns, and then you're like, is this the best player in the country? And it's like, no, he's not. He just had a good like 5 possession stretch there. But I miss that. I want that. Zedkey gave a fuck. Zedkey.
What Janai Broom matched up with Austin Parks we should have called CPS. That's what we're trotting out there against Janai Broom.
Zedkey against Janai Broom would have flopped. He would have played dirty. He would have, had Zedkey would have like dove on the floor for a loose ball, like 2 seconds too late at someone's knees, and you would have been like, fuck yeah, someone that gives a fuck. And everyone else watching would have been like, is this the dirtiest basketball player we've ever seen?
Janai Broom goes for 20 and 20. He just bullied us. All right.
Yeah.
The Buckeyes.
That's the Buckeyes. All right, enough with the Buckeyes. Now I'm done until we lose to Kentucky by 40. And I don't know, man. I'm just like, I keep telling myself I'm apathetic about them because like it's been 11 years now since we've been to the Sweet 16, dude. Never mind the Final Four. Never mind like trying to win a national championship. It's been like over a decade since we've been the team that I remember us being. I came across Ohio State fandom at a awesome time, but also a devastating time because it set my expectations way too high. And by the time I graduated, I was just like, dude, our football team fucking rules, and our basketball team just rules. Like this is awesome. We're gonna be awesome at everything forever.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up an Ohio State fan. I didn't realize that there was going to be a time where we're going to go a decade without going to a Sweet 16. So I keep telling myself that I'm numb to it, and I'm like, listen, it's been a while since we've been there, and I'm just kind of getting used to it. But I'm not used to it, and every time we suck, it ruins my day. And boy, do we fucking suck. And I talk to TJ about this all the time, that so often it's not even about like, can this team win the Big Ten? Can this team go to the Final Four? Can this team win a national championship? It's can this team fucking can this team get me through just like a shitty ass winter? Can this team the weather sucks. I did this a lot. I already did this rant. The weather's awful. The sun set it at 3:30 p.m. and you're looking around just like I'm putting on 10 pounds just out of nowhere because I'm not doing dick, dude. My fucking bones hurt just because like the temperature drops, and I think I might have early onset arthritis. I don't even know. I'm not diagnosed, but it feels that way some days. And shit just kind of sucks in the winter. I hate the fucking winter, dude. And what I turn to with Ohio State basketball is not a national championship contender. I don't turn to Ohio State basketball saying like, please beat Auburn. Please, I expect you to beat the number 2 team in the country that a lot of people believe to be the best team in the country. I don't expect that. What I expect is like, that was a good use of my time. This is nice. This is a pleasant distraction. And we're not even to Christmas yet. We're not even to Christmas yet. I'm staring down the barrel of another like 2.5, 3 months of shitty weather, of gray skies in Chicago, of like nothing but fried foods everywhere I look, of like, like I'm too busy to go to the gym like I need to be going to the gym. My life is falling apart before me, and all I want is like one sliver of a distraction in a basketball team, and they can't even give me that. That's all I ask for. I just want the distraction, dude. Give me an up and down season. I'll take that. At this point, we're just fucking nosediving into the abyss, and it's not even Christmas. And Christmas is ruined, and Janai Broom, I hope you're happy. You've ruined my Christmas. Moving on. Janai Broom is going to win National Player of the Year.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. It's because he's also going to, like,
But also not done.
I think it might be done because I think he's going to have more marquee games with the SEC schedule than Cooper Flagg's going to have. How many times I keep going back to it, but I think that matters. I think that matters a lot. Is you are the game that everybody's watching. How often is Cooper Flagg? Now Duke.
Cooper Flagg.
It's still going to happen. It's still going to happen. It's still going to happen with Cooper Flagg and Duke. But like Auburn has 6 or 7 games left where it's like this is the game.
No, you're right.
This is the game to watch. This is the game of the week in college basketball. This is the game of the night in college basketball.
Cooper Flagg has obviously 2 Carolina games. They go to ESPN, Virginia, and they do have a late game against Illinois in February.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. Clemson, whatever. Janai Broom has already had his Heisman moment we talked about. He has had his clear far and away. They're the best team in the country. They would be the number 1 overall seed right now. And they haven't even started the half of it yet.
Yeah. They still have Purdue coming up, by the way, in non-conference.
When's that?
Auburn. That's the 21st. That's when we play Kentucky.
Ooh.
Yet another opportunity for the SEC to
if they flex their muscles on Purdue, because that's top on top in my opinion. Purdue's still like the face of the.
Purdue just lost to A&M, dude. It's not even the top.
I'm saying
of course Auburn's gonna.
But I want like flex muscles like what they just did, not by 40, but like are they gonna come out and beat them by 17, 20 points?
Yeah, throw the walk-ons in at the end, like if they do
play
that.
The seniors.
Yeah, Janai Broome. I All-American look right now. I have Janai Broome. I think Janai Broome. I think Cooper Flagg. I think Cam Jones are locked right now to be first-team All-Americans. And then I think the other two spots, a lot of basketball left, but a lot of the two spots left, I would say I have a list of like 5 guys, I would say. Who are you throwing out?
Chaz Lanier.
Yeah, he's one of them.
No?
He's one of them. I think Keyshawn Gilbert is up there with Iowa State, given what he does both sides of the ball, and he's in total control right now playing point guard for them. I think PJ Haggerty, it's those two, Chaz Lanier and Keyshawn Gilbert are the two like good team guys, like the guys on the national title contenders.
I think if
that are like the obvious
a top 3 team in the country, and they've got a dude averaging 18 a game, he's going to be on.
The 3 names that need to be brought up though are Dylan Harper, who is playing outrageous basketball right now, and he's doing it for a team that's not awesome, but is not going away. In Rutgers.
You think he could be a first-team All-American?
I do. I think Dylan Harper is that talented, and his numbers are crazy. I think he's hitting. He hit the game winner against Seton Hall. I think he's going to just like, if he continues on the path that he's on, he will just take the first-team All-American. Like it won't even be. You can't even vote on it. Like he's averaging. What is it? I'm going to pull up his stats right now so I can.
Can you be a first-team All-American if they go under 500? Is that a thing that?
I don't give a fuck for me. He's averaging 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. And he's just dominating. And he's like, and talent has to matter. Like you watch these games, like he's the best player on the court, like every time he takes the floor. Like that has to, I'm not saying, he should, I'm saying the argument is there. And I think by the end of the year, he will very much be in the mix.
He's also very much now in the mix to be the number 1 pick next.
And I think the default that you do with All-Americans is you go to the top teams and then start picking off the best players, and you're like, all right, this is probably the All-American team. And I think Dylan Harper, I think Eric Dixon, who is the best offensive player in the country right now at Villanova, and I think PJ Haggerty, who's scoring a ton of points for Memphis. I think those are 3 guys that are on teams that are unranked, but also not. Maybe not even tournament teams. Maybe you have 3 teams that eventually by the end of the year aren't tournament teams. But the way the situation we're in right now, I think all 3 of those guys, if someone was to put out an All-American list and any of those 3 guys were on like a first-team All-American list, I don't think I would push back too much. Mm-hmm. I think Dixon and Harper have better cases than Haggerty, but I would throw him in the mix just because the Memphis, what I said earlier, the Memphis backcourt's been awesome. But I think it's Broome, Flagg, Jones, and then there's 2 spots up for grab. I think the next tier of like Derek Queen and Ace Baldwin and Braden Smith and Hunter, who's not having as good of a year, but he's still always puts up big numbers. I think that's probably my next tier. But yeah, it's going to get interesting because I do think the National Player of the Year race is probably a 2-man race right now, but the All-American situation is very hazy.
For the first time all year, Janai Broome is now minus 165.
Oh, he's minus odds. Wow.
So you're barely getting 50, or just getting over 50 cents on your dollar.
Wow. I forgot to do cross-off teams last time, so I'm gonna cross off my teams. We are down to, I'll do that in a second. So I added a couple stipulations. Number 1, I went back and I looked. You know what the longest losing streak of any national champion is?
It's a great question. No.
1988 Kansas, Danny and the Miracles. They lost 5 in a row. They went on a 5-game losing streak and went on to win a national championship. They're the only one with 4 or more. They were
so it was every 3 team, except for them.
If you remove them, every team going back to 1950 that has won the national championship, nobody has endured a losing streak longer than 3. Kansas had 5 in 1998 and then went on to win the national championship. But because of Kansas, I decided. 6 straight feels pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
that's
safe.
Shattering the record.
If you lose 6 straight, we can cross you off. Virginia Tech had been on the list. They lost 6 straight. They get crossed off. Another thing, I went back and I looked. No team has been under 500, sure, but even I think 500 by Christmas. and gone on to win the national championship. There were only a handful of teams that were even close, and they were all like way back in the day. Like 77 Marquette was 3-2, I think, at Christmas. 54 LaSalle and 52 Indiana were both 3-2, and then 61 Cincinnati was 4-3. But other than those teams, no national champion has even been close to 500. But because of those teams, those are the exceptions. I decided to say if by the time Christmas rolls around, there are enough data points, you've played enough. You played some tough teams, you played some cupcakes, all that. When the dust settles and you have a team like in Arizona, say, who's 4-5, they still have a couple games left, so they have time to fix it. But if you are under 500 by the time Christmas rolls around, you are not a serious national title contender. So that crosses off Florida Gulf Coast, who is not going to be able to get to 500. Fresno State, UMass, the Ohio Bobcats. It breaks my heart. Jeff Bull's probably not going to win a national championship. Tulsa and Western Michigan. I'm crossing all those teams off. I think Idaho too. Add Idaho to the list. I think Idaho does not have a path to being 500 or better by Christmas. And then other teams that I forgot to cross off, but I went back and I double checked all the other criteria I had were Boston College, who had lost to Dartmouth earlier in the year, and I forgot to cross them off. Charlotte had lost to LIU. Kent State scored 39 points on November 29th and lost. That's one of our criteria.
And they look good. They might win the MAC.
Morehead State and Navy both lost in New Jersey Institute of Technology. Oral Roberts lost to a Division II school at home.
Can't do it.
They get crossed off. And then St. Peter's lost to Manhattan. So all those teams were still on the list, and all of them need to be crossed off. We are down to officially 130 teams left, and somehow Dartmouth is one of them. I don't know how.
Still alive.
I think Detroit Mercy is one of them too, who we've crossed off like 8 or 9 teams because of Dartmouth and Detroit Mercy. But the Dartmouth and Detroit Mercy are still on the list.
That's analytics.
So we're down to 130. Realistically, my gut says so. The tarred and feathered list says there are 130 teams left that can win the national championship. Realistically, let me think about this. I think
there's more than you're about to say. I'll say that.
I think there are. I just pulled up Ken Palm to get because the poll's not out. The new AP poll is coming out later today, so I'm gonna use Ken Palm as my reference. I would cut the line at, boy, it would be like it's basically am I including Connecticut at 12 or not, and I will. I'll include UConn at 12, and then UCLA is 13. I would draw the line there. I don't think UCLA can win the national championship. Or St. John's, Baylor, Illinois, Michigan State, A&M, Oregon, Maryland, Purdue, Michigan, Cincinnati, Ole Miss. Yeah, none of those.
I had it at 14.
I think the top 12, and then in the top 12, the teams that stand out to me would be as like I don't know how much I actually do trust them. UConn, I'm back to like figuring them out a little bit. A lot of questions about that. I'm not there yet that they can win it, but I feel like I'd throw it. I wouldn't be stunned if they won it. Obviously, they've won 2 in a row. Gonzaga. I think UConn, Gonzaga. I think that's probably it, though. It's probably those 12. Kansas, maybe. Kansas, Gonzaga, and UConn are 3 that I'm not super high on. But yeah, it's that top 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
that's where I draw the line.
I think the top 12 are all there, and then I would say I would add Baylor at 15, and I am reserving one spot for someone from the Big Ten. That's all. I just want one spot. I don't know who it is.
I think that's what the AP poll does. Is they just throw in like one team.
Someone from the Big Ten.
Someone in the Big Ten has to be in the top 15. It just has to work that way. All right. I think that's it. We can get out of here. That's it. That's the only show we're doing this week, by the way. We're gonna take off for Cody. It was the saddest scene you'll ever see, man. He just came to me, gets down on both knees, is begging. He's just like, "Sir, please. I would love to see my family on Christmas. I'd like to." Sir, please, can I just take a day off and leave early and go home and see my family? And I was like, I can't do that to this kid. Mm-hmm. He works so hard for us. Mm-hmm. You know, he's such an asset to the show. I love him so much. I can't do that to this poor guy. So,
Merry Christmas, Cody.
So that's my Christmas gift to Cody.
That's big of you.
And it's definitely not that I have to record a bunch of holiday specials for all the other shows I'm on this week, and I'm heavily drinking in all of them, and and there's just no way I can put another show on the books because there's like a 50-50 chance. I mean, the last time we did holiday special on Mostly Sports, I was out for like 2 days. That fucked me up. But no, this was the weekend to talk about all the college basketball, and we hit all the big games. So I think We're going to take the rest of this week off. We're obviously going to take off for Christmas break. We will see you in 2025. I guess when I say it that way, it kind of sinks in. It's going to be a while. There's going to be a lot of basketball between now and oh my God.
It'll be a lot to unwrap.
A lot to unwrap. So yeah, I guess this is the final show of 2024. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. I'm trying to process it all. That's a lot of time off for this show. I hope you're happy, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, we got what we wanted.
No, thanks to everybody for listening and watching the show. It means a lot. I know for a lot of people across the country, college basketball only matters in March. And obviously, if you're watching or listening to this show right now, you're not one of those people. And I have a sizable audience that'll listen in the middle of July. And that means a lot to me. I don't take it for granted. And as we're at the holiday season and doing the reflecting and doing all the sappy emotional stuff, I just wanted to thank all of you guys because I do a lot here at Barstool. My job description has expanded greatly from where it was a few years ago. And still at my core, the thing I enjoy doing most is just sitting down and riffing on college basketball and just having like diarrhea of the mouth about college basketball. That's where I'm at my best. That's my comfort zone. Is just like I have 10 trillion thoughts on all these basketball teams and I just want to dump them all out at once. And this show allows me to do that, and I can't do that unless I have an audience, and so thank you to the audience for letting me do that. I guess that's it. Anything else? Anybody else have anything before we take a long break? Free Lutheran lost.
They're so bad.
Shut up, dude. They're not bad. They're just not good yet.
Oh, they're due.
They're due. They'll figure it out. We're holding out hope for those guys. All right, everybody have a great holiday season, great New Year. We will see you in January, I guess. Hopefully the Buckeyes have brought me back to life by then, but I'm not counting on it, whether they do or not. We'll see you in 2025. Goodbye, everybody.